Welcome back, everybody. It's my pleasure to start the next session, which is on digital transformation in the supply chain. Now, we have quite a few speakers. We have Georgios Georgantas, who's the Deputy Minister of Digital Governance in Greece. We have Umberto De Pretto, Secretary General of the International Road Transport Union. We have George Chiroglianis, the Deputy Director General of the Hellenic Federation of Enterprises, and we have John Gattorna, Global Logistics and Supply Chain Consultant. Now, I'm going to ask John Gattorna to speak first because he is a long way away in Sydney, Australia. And there's a certain time difference between us in Europe and the Australians. So, John, the floor is yours.
Thanks, John, for that introduction, and it's my pleasure to join this panel and join the conversation. Look, let me start by just setting the context that post-COVID, in the post-COVID world, we're facing a two-tier operating environment. And what I mean by that is that business as usual is going to be plus or minus 40% variability on the supply side and on the demand side. And then from time to time, we're going to have extreme disruptions of plus or minus 100% like we've just seen. So we've got to learn to live with this. And so the whole focus, if you like, of our supply chains globally is turning away from this sort of globalization thrust that we've been going on for a number of years. And we've got to start to think more about resilience, time to recovery, more than pure cost. So that's the way we're going. And look, we've got to put a lot more science into what we do in our supply chain. It's not been a field which has been deeply scientific, but we've got to start to do a much better job. And we've got to do a better job than governments. I think, listening to the last conversation, there's no question in my mind that governments around the world are on the back foot. Doesn't matter whether you appear to be successful or not, like in Australia, where we look successful, but the government's on the back foot, or whether we're in the UK or somewhere else. Governments just haven't caught up. They can't even handle taxation. They're struggling with cyber attacks. And so I think it's up to the major corporations to take the lead here. Now, on the topic of digital transformation, we're now involved in responding to just a wave of profoundly disruptive, interdependent technologies, things like cloud computing, big data, IoT, blockchain, AI, cognitive automation, robotics, the likes. But the reality is that supply chains are socio-technical systems. They're not just purely technical, and they're not just purely social. So to future-proof our supply chains going forward, we're going to have to put a lot more thought into design and design them for speed and resilience and growth and sustainability, because that's coming back into the picture as well, and risk mitigation. So there's a lot of moving parts here. And if companies, if there are people on this event today who are listening to this, haven't started to think about how they're going to do this, then they need a plan B, because I know companies that have been on this sort of thrust for 7 or 8 years, and they're still not there. This whole process of getting the architecture right and then underpinning that with digitization takes many years. Now, on the human side, the socio capabilities that we're going to have to embed in our organizations are things like new organizations designs. We're going to have to get those organizations working at a faster clock speed, a faster cadence. We're going to have to look at ways of getting end-to-end visibility, because that is the key to resilience anyhow. We're going to need things like control towers to help us run our business on a sort of real-time basis. So there's a lot to do here. On the technical side, digitization is absolutely critical. That's the subject of this panel. Demand sensing, end-to-end visibility, track and trace, external risk monitoring, data analytics, ready to run strategic models to test various scenarios when things go difficult, etc. So in many ways, we live in a sort of a world of what I call supply chain democratization, because a lot of the new technologies and applications are not coming from within the supply chain, the traditional supply chain. They're coming from people well outside the supply chain. And I know a number of startups that have come up with new ideas that will fit beautifully into the supply chain and help us in things like track and trace, etc. So just finishing my comment here, I think in terms of Greece's role, I think Greece has got a fantastic opportunity if it's prepared to pick it up. It's a small economy, a little like Australia, except it doesn't have what we've got with all these resources, which tend to be saving us. It's a gateway to Europe. The future, in many ways, is all to do with technology and being cleverer, developing that digital technology, and also managing the assets it's got, and trying to take ownership of those assets and using its great traditions in shipping and transport and ports itself to privatize them, rather than, if you like, taking the easy route and giving it to other countries to run. So I'll have more to say about that towards the end, John.
Thank you very much indeed, John. I know you may have to disconnect quite soon because it's getting
No,
pretty
I'll
late.
stay. I'm staying up late, but I'll stay on for the conversation and the questions and answers at the
Oh,
end, John.
you're a great guy. Well, I will nonetheless ask you a quick question. You mentioned
Yep,
IoT, Internet of
yep.
Things. I mean, that has been talked about for at least a decade, and yet it doesn't really seem to have happened. I mean, why not?
Look, it's funny enough in the logistics industry, if I can use that expression, there are a lot of people who don't want it. Because what it does, it opens up incredible transparency to logistics providers, customers. It does all sorts of things. It's there, it's existing. And I
Yeah,
know startup companies that are using IoT to track from the point of receipt of an order, real time, through to the proof of delivery, having proof of delivery, and at the end of that, actually joining that up with payment methods now. So it's the technology is there. The reality is that there are a lot of folks in the logistics industry who don't want it because it's going to open up serious questions on their performance. The customers, the end customers, want it, and we've got to give it to them.
okay. Thank you very much. I wish you, by the way, good luck on the Ashes, but I hope that we win. Um, for those, the rest of
Okay,
it, that's a cricketing
it'll be a good battle.
analogy.
It'll be